Okay, so today we're actually going to get around to talking about the fifth and maybe the sixth of the seven prayers. Okay, so the order of the fifth and the sixth, it's sometimes it's requesting teachings first, and sometimes it's requesting the Buddha and our teachers not to pass away first. And then sometimes the prayer is written the opposite way, where we're requesting them to remain, and then after that request teachings. Okay? I don't know why it changes from one version to the next. Uh, but let us do the one about requesting teachings first, because I think both of them are quite important, because clearly without our teachers and without our teachers giving teachings, both of those things we need, we would be really, really lost. Yeah. And it's very easy to take for granted the presence of our teachers and also the presence of the teachings, especially if you live in a community, you live in a Dharma center, in a monastery, whatever. The teachings are around you, the teachers are around you, and this is your life, and it seems like it's always going to be like that, yeah, until it isn't. And uh, it takes a lot of merit to receive teachings, okay? And it takes merit to encounter, really excellent teachers too. So a lot of this is depending, not a lot, most of it depends on our practice, okay? So, uh, when I lived in Asia, it was a little bit different because everybody who lived there, we were all, at least the Westerners, we were all there for the teachings. Okay, people went, down to town from time to time, but in the communities, it was really being there for the teachings. And when I came back to the West, and I was teaching in Seattle at Dharma Friendship Foundation, it was so surprising to me. I had to get used to a whole different kind of mentality, because for the people there, they had their lives, their jobs, their social lives, their family, all their worldly activities and their hobbies. And Dharma kind of fit in the hobby section, you know? And, but they had very full schedules, lots of social activities. And so Dharma was not the reason why they were there, okay? Like it was when were living in India outside your own country, within that Dharma circle that I was in. So it was really a switch for me to get used to being with people who didn't see Dharma as the principal, most important thing in their life. Yeah. And who, would want to go to retreats, but then there was a wedding, their cat was sick, their child had a soccer game. There were so many different things that kept them from, uh, attending retreats, and they would try and come to teachings regularly, and some of them were really exceptional for that. And others had a really difficult time because, their spouse wasn't uh, involved in Buddhism and didn't like them being gone, and or their children didn't like them being gone, even though the children were teenagers and were gone most of the time. Um, yeah, so it was quite hard for people, and uh, you know, so it made me wonder sometimes how much Dharma was valued. Yeah, because I think when we really value something, we always make time for it. And the big thing in America, at least, is I don't have time. Yeah, I don't have time, which in my book usually means I like it, but it's not my highest priority or even my second or third priority. Yeah. Because if it is, then we make the time. Yeah. Either that or we completely let other people run our lives for us and tell us what to do. Uh, you know, in which case it's going to be hard to practice Dharma anyway. So I think, and especially in the West, that's one factor we have to deal with. Another is that we approach the teachings very much with a consumer mentality. Yeah. So, I go to the Dharma Center, I have to pay for teachings. I expect the teachings to be to my liking. I expect them to be at the times that are convenient for me and to last as long as I feel like listening, not any longer and not any shorter. And I expect them to start on time if I like to be on time, or to start late if I like to be late. And we approach things so much with a consumer mentality, and that we call the shot somehow, because we're putting the money down. And of course, Dharma isn't like that at all, although it's kind of becoming like that in the West. People have to pay for teachings and so on and so forth. So, to really develop a very deep appreciation for the Dharma, it takes some time and some energy, and it depends a lot on our previous life karma. And for different people, it's going to be different, and it's going to be what it's going to be. You cannot coerce or nag people into treasuring the Dharma. And I learned this one time at DFF when, you know, kind of many people didn't come for an activity that was specially planned. And I kind of expressed my dissatisfaction with it. And the people who were there said, "Why are you telling that to us? We're the ones who are here. You need to tell that to the people who aren't here." But of course, I can't say it to the people who aren't there because they aren't there. Um, okay, but what I'm getting at is for each of us to really think about the value of the teachings in our lives. And one way to do this is to consider, if you hadn't met the Dharma, what would your life be like right now? Okay. When I think about this, because I met the Dharma when I was 24, and I think of if I hadn't met the Dharma and adopted the Dharma and realized that my mind was the cause of happiness and suffering, and that I needed to keep good ethical conduct and so on and so forth, I would have made a total mess of my life, and I would have messed up a lot of other people's lives too. Because I had very strong attachment, very strong anger. If those things were unchecked, then, what do? You create a mess in your own life and in other people's lives. So when I really play this out, sometimes I do this in my meditation. I play out, okay, I didn't meet the Dharma. Then there I was, 24, in this situation. What would I have done if I had just followed the mindset that I had then? Yeah. And I play out the choices I would have made, and the things I would have said to other people, and the things I would have done or not done. Yeah. And, play it out for the next few years, from, okay, age 29 to 30, what would have happened? Then what would have happened 30 to 40, And it's like, oh boy, I am so fortunate for having met the Dharma, because I really would have made a mess. Yeah. So this kind of reflection helps us to appreciate the teachings. And it's very important to appreciate the teachings, because if we don't, then we don't make the effort to go to them. Yeah. And if we don't make the effort to go to the teachings and attend retreats and symposiums and things like that, then we get the results of not going, which is that we miss out on all those Dharma imprints. Our practice doesn't get stronger. We usually just get more distracted. Yeah, maybe a few people continue on very strongly, but for most people, it's quite difficult without regular imprint or input, Dharma input, because society's ways are kind of the opposite of the Dharma. And they say that practicing the Dharma is like being like a white crow. Yeah, how many white crows have you seen? Okay, so, that's kind of a warning to us. So I think it's important for our own benefit to spend some time thinking about this. And then not just thinking about how the teachings are valuable, but making an effort to attend them. And not just to attend them, but making an effort to request the teachings. Yeah, the traditional way is you have to request 3 times. Yeah, and a teacher doesn't come to you and say, oh, I'm teaching and won't you come? Please, 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 I'll give you $10 if you come to the teachings. It's the student's responsibility to go and make an offering and think about what teachings you want to hear, and then to bow down and request for the teachings, because that shows that we've reflected beforehand on how important the Buddha Dharma is in our life, and we're willing to exert some energy to request the teachings and to arrange for them to happen. Okay, so we're not just waiting for somebody else to organize and somebody else to request and so on, but we're an active part of it. Yeah? And you see this still in Asia today. His Holiness the Dalai Lama's teachings, somebody will request them and then they will benefact it and open it up to other donations too, but they will maybe get together with a group of friends or whatever and really make the teachings possible for other people. Yeah. So, developing an attitude like that is, I think, very important for our practice. I know that when I lived first in Nepal and India, I loved the Dharma, but I never thought about these kind of things because the Dharma was right there and my teachers were right there and there were always teachings. Then my teacher sent me to Italy, okay, to this new Dharma center, no teacher. Yeah, I was ordained. How long was I ordained? Maybe a year and a half or 2 years at the most. And I was supposed to organize a spiritual program when there's no, resident teacher. And, I was only a baby nun. And that's when the 7 limb prayer, this branch, really began to strike home. When you request for teachings from your heart, because I was there all alone with a couple of, a few monks who were even younger in ordination than me. And, I wanted teachings, I needed Dharma support, and that's when it really came. Oh, I have to request and I have to, from my heart, really fervently request and want the teachings, and not just kind of sit back and expect them to come. Okay, so that's, I think, the reason why that is part, that is one of the seven limbs of that, yeah, because it is important for us to realize the preciousness of the teachings and be proactive to make them happen. And then once we request, to make sure we attend them. I've had people request teachings. I organize the teachings and give them, and the person who requested does not come. Yeah. Or somebody requests that I give refuge and precepts. We make a special time. This happened this last visit. We make a special time to do that, and then the person doesn't come. Yeah, so this is not the way it should be done. Okay, so so spend some time thinking about what your life would be like if you hadn't met the Dharma.
So this is something I've been trying to understand, and it's hard to understand for me, is when it comes to this consumer mentality that in the West we approach the Dharma with. It's nothing new for people in our culture to have a religious institution or community that is a deeply part of our lives, that we engage in regular spiritual activities as well as traditions and all these things, as well as giving financially to them. So why is it with the Dharma that it's just become this kind of commercial thing, but even though our culture is not new to supporting religious institutions and communities?
Yeah.
Without a consumer mentality.
Okay. Well, in terms of financial support and so on, many times, at least in the West, aside from the people who were born Buddhist and are ethnic Buddhists, the people who convert to Buddhism are usually disillusioned with the standard religious institutions. So they come to Buddhism, and you get kind of different aspects of this. One is, I'm fed up with religious institutions. I'm not going to tithe. I don't want to pay. I want to come and check it out and see if it's worthwhile. And why do they charge for the teachings? Because the religion I came from, we used to do by donations, but then they don't like the religion they came from. Oh, they passed the plate and you had to pull out so much, otherwise people judged you. Or you had to sign a membership pledge and pay so much, otherwise you couldn't be a part of it. So it's part of this, of people having rejected the religious institutions they came from. Another element is, for some people, what's strange is, when you offer the teachings freely, they think it's not worth much because you're not charging. Because everything else in their life, if they go to yoga, if they do some shamanism, something, if they go, to the doctor, or they go for, any other kind of healing, everything you have to pay. And so some people think it's worthwhile if you have to pay. So when you try and do it free, then they think, oh, it's not worth anything. But then other people, if you charge, they say, well, the Buddha said you should give it free. And anyway, I don't like paying. I mean, I want to come for free. Why can't I? I don't have a lot of money. Because very often, and this is something that that feel is very painful to me to hear, is that some people call it not the middle way, but the upper middle way. Yeah, because there are some places that charge pretty hefty fees for retreats, for teachings, and it has to do with paying for the staff at the retreat center, because they don't have so many volunteers like in Asia. It has to do also with having lay teachers, many of whom who have to support their family based on what the income they get from teachings. So it's a very complex kind of situation. And many people have many different viewpoints on it. Yeah.